Hello, my spooky friends. I'm John, your host, and welcome to another episode of Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. And I am rocking it. You're only my second guest for 2025, Francesca.
Honor, thank you.
But I know you're going to be a great guest because no pressure at all. But all my guests last year were awesome. We had a great time, and I intend to even have a better time in 2025. So I want to introduce Francesca from Supernatural Eye and War Party Paranormal. She is a paranormal investigator. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor having me on, so thank you. Yeah.
No, the honor is all mine to be on my little show. I love when I can get paranormal investigators on because you and every paranormal investigator has the craziest stories. I don't know how you guys do it.
We do have some wild stories, don't we?
You definitely do. And later on, if we have time, Francesca, what I'm going to do is talk about different types of ghosts and everything.
Sure.
And just to let you know, my audience, my spooky friends, are very educated in the way of paranormal. However, if there's some terms you're using, I always tell my paranormal investigators there's some equipment that, you go like, it's the blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I will ask you, to define it because I've learned about cat balls. I've learned about dowsing rods and
the basics. You got it.
Tripwires and REM pods. So I'm pretty good, but sometimes
you're probably knowledgeable. I mean, you know about the recorders too. I'm sure not all the different
recorders
types, but
too.
Yeah, it seems like you got it going on.
So let's get right into it. I always love to ask my spooky friends, and now you on my show are my spooky friend.
Thank you.
What inspired you to get into this?
Oh man, well, since I was a little girl, I've always been into like weird, strange, and the unusual things, but I had an experience as a kid just kind of seeing the other side. Mostly, I'm vulnerable in my sleep. I feel like I connect with them more. So I've, dreamt with even past family members I've never met, just different type of interactions to a point that when I grew up, I had certain episodes like sleep paralysis, night terrors, all of that. So definitely I felt like I'm very connected. It's still to this day in my sleep. From there on, I just kind of the curiosity sparked. So sometimes I just had weird interactions, whatever the case is. I was always been growing up just known as this strange, weird, girl or whatever. So it kind of interests my, to go into psychology. So I majored into that, kind of see what's going on. Am I going crazy? What's the rational thought going on in my mind here? So psychology, yes, it helps me debunk certain things, but at the same time, it doesn't help me answer all the questions I have and experiences as well. So my heart couldn't pursue psychology at the end of the day. So I kind of, went on to paranormal investigations and done my research from there on to see what I can do to help others.
I love it. So let's back up. I always ask my guests, your first paranormal experience was as a child. Can you describe it?
Sure. So just growing up, I always felt like I make a joke. I had whether if it's a spirit guide, I really don't know. I call him Charles. So just sleeping, I felt like something was there, on the corner of the room, just at first it was very intimidating for me because I just thought oh my God, what the heck? You've seen all the horror films and whatever. So you really kind of put Hollywood into, even as a kid, you associate with that. So I didn't understand it. So I would say at first it was very terrifying, just kind of seeing shadows and things on the side. But it was just this one particular man, I would have to say. I don't know who he is and the connection to him, but I call him Charles. And for whatever reason, I don't know why I named him that, but I just did. And that was really my first experience. And then actually, no, let me track that back. Really, my first one was I had a childhood best friend, and she was best friends with my mother, and she died of cancer. So actually, that was really my first experience. And just growing up, I remember in her home, we smelled her mom's perfume. She had distinct perfume that was kind of going around the room in the kitchen. So that was the first time really. And then her cousin was freaking out because she saw a shadow, which we believe was her mom going to the daughter's room. So that's technically my first experience. Let me take that back. But then afterwards, I kind of having these strange dreams or just seeing things. And I'm am I sleeping? What's going on? And yeah, Charles just kind of was there. And then from there on, just kind of I've dreamt with him and just kind of saw his personality. Growing up, I just realized, I think it was something just watching over me. It wasn't never threatening. It was just kind of there. It's creepy just looking over me per se.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I got older, I got to understand a little bit more than like as a child. I'm like, oh my God, it's like a demon. I don't know what the heck this is. But it really wasn't. It was just nothing. It wasn't anything intimidating. But that was really kind of like my first experience. And then, yeah, just from there on, I just started kind of having like in middle school, like weird reoccurring dreams. It was really odd, but it was like it was like a chapter book of like, it just stopped at a certain point and then it just kind of picked up, and it was just really strange. But yeah, so that's when it all happened for me, in other words.
So would you say you lived in a haunted house, or do you just think that this entity, spirit, or whatever was just attached to you?
I wouldn't say like the first house I grew up in. I wouldn't say I don't know if it's just something with me, or I honestly don't know, but I wouldn't say that's the house. Like the house I'm at, I would say like it could be slightly haunted because there's some weird things that have happened. And my sister, she's very like, I think she believes in it, but she doesn't want to. So she blocks it off. So she's like, no, I didn't see that. I didn't hear that, and I roommate with my sister. But I would say currently the house I'm in, which was actually given to me by my father when he got remarried. I would say that this house has a good energy to it. It's not anything bad. It's not anything menacing. It's just coexisting. I don't know what, but it's just, yeah. So I would say it just kind of, maybe it's always been with me, but I wouldn't say like the first house growing up I had, some type of known haunting or something, like somebody that passed on in that property. From my knowledge now, I don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the house currently I'm at, I would say yes.
Well, we'll get into that. Love
yeah.
it. So it's hard enough growing up to be the odd weird kid. I was the odd weird nerd too. I loved all this stuff too. I haven't had as many paranormal experiences as you had, but did you ever just once, when you were just sitting around, I don't know, for the holidays, sitting with the family, just go, you know what? I'm sensitive. I'm into paranormal. If you'd like it, great. If you don't, I don't care. Did you ever have one of those moments where you just said,
oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I've had those moments before. It's funny because like all my family's like, oh, stop with your ghost stuff. So even like growing up, I've always been like, kind of like, I like to do this, whatever. And they're like, oh, this girl's crazy, whatever. It's all in your mind. Like you're watching too much horror films, whatever the case is. But yeah, my family is very like, they like block it off. And I get it. Maybe just like culture, because they are Spanish. So growing up, I think it's like that, Hispanic culture that they're very like, they believe in it. And they're just like, don't talk about it kind of thing. Like the more you attract, the more you bring. But definitely I would say, yeah, I was always been that girl that's like, let's talk about ghosts. Let's do this. And everybody's like, oh gosh, here we go again. Like, and they're always like, oh, stop with your ghost stuff. So they're like, stop with your weird things. Stop it. Like let's have a normal conversation. But I'm like, yeah, it's always a spark and interest I love to talk about.
Yeah.
So I had those moments.
I love that. I love that because now today it's a little more, one of the reasons I did this podcast was demystify it, because I believe there are thousands of stories out there people are not willing to tell. But let me ask you this. Have you ever been with someone, before we get into more stories here, have you ever been like maybe with your dad, a cousin, something, and they go, hey, you're right. I did see Charlie, or I did see a shadow. And you're like, why didn't you tell me? Was there any moment like that too?
Well, I had some experiences for sure with like my sister. I would say my dad. My dad was definitely like the most rewarding capturing experience. That happened actually recently. And he's very old school, skeptical, like, no, this is nonsense. Like he would definitely go into more of the psychology mind aspect. Because psychologists, again, like people are like, oh, there's parapsychology, but in reality, psychology goes against the paranormal field. They're very into the hard science, the evidence. It's all in your mind. You might be under some stressors, whatever the case is, right? Even for parapsychology. But definitely my dad's very into that mindset, like very just old school, traditional, like, no, this isn't happening, right? My sister, again, she just blocks it. It's like she could believe it, but she's like, no, I don't want to be a part of this, whatever. So there's definitely times at my current house, like, yeah, things were like bangs, pops, like things are falling over. And then she just looks at me. She's like, oh, I don't know. It could be some movement. So it's like she tries to block it off. I already know because I'm just like, whatever. If people are having their moments, who knows? Like some tantrum. I don't freaking know what's going on. Not anything, again, it's not menacing. It's just coexisting. But definitely recently, I went to Casadega with the team. I would say I would say not recently, but to me, it was kind of a recent moment. But I would say like 2 or 3 years ago. When did we go to Casadega? It was a bunch of us, of our teammates, that we did an episode with Spanish network Univision, or Univision, but we say Univision. So we filmed there, and it was definitely one of those rewarding experiences, because not the town Casadega itself. It's like that spiritual psychic town that it really has a good vibe to it. It's not anything menacing. It's just something like, it's like, I can't describe it. It's just so clean and just like the spiritual feeling to it. And I had, my grandmother, I was very close with her, and she passed probably like a year before I went to Casadega or two. And I always felt like I wanted to connect with her, and I haven't quite yet. And I felt at that moment I did, because I had like a Spanish psychic and an English psychic, two different psychics in the room. That was part of the special, like interviewing all of us. And I felt like my grandmother definitely came through, and good thing it was, like I had like somebody else pre-record my session other than what TV has, because sometimes TV doesn't show all of it. I'm kind of glad they didn't show that, because that's kind of personal to me in a way.
Yeah.
Even as a paranormal investigator, I'm here like helping people out, but whatever. So, and I think at that moment, since I had that recording and I showed my dad, I'm like, I think my grandma came through. He's like, leave my mom alone, right? Because that's his mom. So he's like, leave my mom alone. So I was like, no, you have to check this out. So I literally sent him the clip, and I think he was just like, he didn't know what to say. And I think in a form of way, that was like him showing me like he sort of believed, even though he was still stubborn and doesn't want to admit it. But he was kind of like, and I told him, like, I didn't even like let him know who it was. I'm like, who do you think that was? And then he just kind of stood quiet. I'm like, who do you think that was? And he was like, my mom. And I'm like, okay. And I don't know, to me, that was like confirmation that maybe slowly I cracked my dad, Tony. He started believing a little bit. Yeah. But he's proud of me. I mean, I know he always wanted me to venture into the psychology, and I get it. Like, he wants me to make money and whatever, but he is proud of me and then the work I do, even though he's not a full believer, I guess, in it. But I think that was a form of accomplishment to show that, like, a skeptic, turn him into a little bit of a believer.
Yeah, obviously. So I always love my paranormal investigators. Because you've come so far, the equipment has come so far. Do you remember your first paranormal investigation, and do you remember how it went? Like your very first?
Of course. That's like remembering your first kiss, like your first date, your first boyfriend. Like, what do you mean? I definitely remember that. And this place always like hits to me because, again, it's your first. It's like the first time. Like growing up, I had my experiences, yes, in my dreams, in my sleep. It's like I didn't really investigate. Like I haven't gotten to that point, right? So a long time ago, what sparked me to do this as like a professional investor, like, okay, this is what I want to be, right? Was, oh God, how long ago was this? It was definitely over a decade ago, probably like maybe 13 years ago. And it was in St. Augustine. That's how it all started. Oh. It was the old jail at St. Augustine. So of course, me being the only weird girl in my group, of course, I'm dragging my friends. This was like probably when we were in college. And I'm like, again, I wasn't like an investigator officially yet. This is like when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah. And I had to drag my best friends at the time, and they're not into it. They just wanted to go drink. It was college days. They wanted to go drink, go to the bars, whatever. I'm like, well, let's just go check it out. Let's go find some ghosts. And I'm like, I'm here like really involved with it. They're just like, we're here for the experience. As long as I get a beer afterwards, you owe me. So, and I did.
All right. I like that.
There weren't four. I was kind of annoyed because, of course, like, definitely better not to go into investigations drunk. I didn't, but you know how they are. I can't control what people do. And at the same time, I didn't know how seriously the work is. I was just there to try it. And that was the first time. So they're getting a kick out of it. But like, definitely we had experiences even that first night. And they got kind of spooked out, even them trying to be like, oh, like these cool little college kids, right? But yeah, definitely St. Augustine was the first experience for me, or the first time I did a paranormal investigation. And like, they provided us those tools, like the little, K2s and maybe some like, I think that was it. Maybe I don't remember at the time. It was so long ago. But we had a good experience there. And then from there on, I'm like, this is definitely what I want to do. This is so cool. Like, this is like ghost hunters. Like, and at the time, obviously I watched Ghost Adventures and all that stuff. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to become a paranormal investigator. And I was majoring in psychology at the time, but after that, I just kind of started buying the equipment like everybody else. Like I got my K2, your simple dowsing rods. Now I have the sophisticated glow up, the dark ones. And I got inspired by Patty Negree. Shout out to her for that. But, you start off. So you got your little recorder, whatever.
Love it.
And I just kind of venture off. I just kind of did it as a hobby. Like, okay, I want to go to this place. I went to that place if it was by myself, or I grabbed like a family member or some friends I have to beg, I just kind of did it on my own, and I start ordering evidence. I guess you could say like I never like really exposed it until I created Supernatural, and that's what you see. But I just kind of start ordering the evidence from there on when I was in college, and I just never, really kind of promoted myself, or never like thought of getting involved into YouTube or in like the social media aspect at the time. I was majoring in psychology, but it was just, that's how it all started for me. It was definitely starting not to get off track with the St. Augustine at the old jail. So that's where it hits home.
I love it. I totally love it. Can I embellish a little bit? What I'm thinking of, you young women sitting around a Ouija board going, making things, and then it moves, and like your friend Becky goes, stop it, you're scaring me. No.
experiences.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. I was going to say that was your first experience. I was kind of embellishing it, from the movies. It's always in the movies. They go to a haunted place. They get out a Ouija board. Yeah. The Ouija board moves. Your friend Becky goes, "No, stop it, Mary. It's not funny." And then they, like a shadow pops up, and then they're running. Yeah, that's what I was hoping it would be like, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had those moments with some Ouija boards and some friends growing up, of course. You do the light is the feather and whatnot, but yeah, no, my first paranormal investigation was that. Definitely the old jail. They had like their little, I forgot what it was, so long ago, but you paid a certain amount. It was a lot. Actually, St. Augustine kind of rips you off with those prices when you do like those ghost tours or whatever it is.
Oh, I bet.
But it's St. Augustine. It's the tourist thing to do in Florida,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, but when you did have an experience, I'm guessing you went like, "Oh, this is awesome." Mm-hmm. But was there like touching? Was there voices?
At that time?
What experience? Do you remember that at all? I know it's a long time ago.
No, it was a long time ago. At the time, of course, they kind of, and not to, again, this could be a different paranormal group running it now, because I think it is, because actually we met them and it's different group. Mm-hmm. At the time, and I'm not trying to throw diss, but you learn and you educate yourself as an investigator. I am definitely not an orb believer. I will debunk that right now. Okay. I don't believe in orbs. At the time I did. And of course they try to, and that's why it's so important when you do this research, you're really, and I'm not here to try to say you're wrong and you're this, but at the end of the day, you do need to do your research. You're here trying to prove people that are not believers or scientists at the end of the day that, hey, like, you're not a fraud. Like, these things do happen. It's hard to prove that. But anyways, we can go into that discussion. At the time, obviously, like, I thought I captured some light spirit orb, and it wasn't. It was definitely just dust and things that could be described. Yeah. But they're like, "Yeah, you captured an orb right there." And I thought this whole time I was capturing an orb. And then later on, until I get into the field and then become like real serious with it, I had so, and again, that's why you have to listen to people that have done this for so long and have done the research, and not just be so hard headed and be like, "What do you mean? This is no, listen to the people who have done it. It makes sense. Like, they'll debunk it for you. Hey, it was debunked for me." And I were like, "Oh crap, you're right. This, yeah, you're right. I should know better." But whatever, you learn, you live and you learn. So that was like what I thought was like my first evidence captured, but it wasn't. But personally experienced at the old jail, you had those like those, I remember like the smell of it. Like, yeah, you did smell like that feces, that urine, like randomly. Obviously you can't capture that in evidence form. I didn't have an EVP or recorder at the time, but we had like dowsing rod session. I remember me and my friend Casey at the time that we were down in the sheriff's office. And then we had our little dowsing rod sessions that at the same time, they're like going left, right. Of course, we didn't have a camera at the time, so I was just starting fresh. I don't have evidence to show you that. But one thing, let me get back to that. So one evidence capture, I did have to say that it's still to this day mysterious and fishy. Right in the gallows of the St. Augustine jail outside. And I know people are like, "Oh, it's probably light contamination, all that." But it's really, I really can't debunk that, because I've taken several shots of the photos, and it's only in this one photo that it appeared. But it's like literally a human body misshape. And you can see it. It's like from head to toe. It looks like a shape of a form, like a white mist. And that, to me, I would say, I'm sorry, that was a really good evidence photo capture, but that wasn't through me. That was through my friend Casey at the time. So it wasn't really mine, but I did share it on my first episode of Supernatural Eye. That was like, I try to do chronological order from my experiences into where I'm at now. So on that first episode, you will see that actually I take that back. That was like really not my first evidence capture, but at the investigation that was a good capture. And then I thought I captured an orb, and it wasn't an orb, but that's another story. And then I remember also like the shadow movements. There's a lot of like shadow movements when you're in those cells that even like the friends I was with, that they're very like, little comical guys. I think they're like, haha, like everything's all like, fun and games, because they don't take things seriously in college, like, get me to the bar, right? I'm over this. This is too quiet for me, You have to have a certain like, attraction to paranormal investigations. Exactly. So you can't please everybody. But even them, they were like seeing things. They're like, holy crap. And I can tell like they're really getting into it. Did you see that? Did you see that? And I'm like, no. But in the corner of your eyes, you did see some things like kind of like moving around. So I do remember that from that investigation, I have to say.
I love that. I'm going to tell you a really quick story, not to get on a tangent, but my favorite stories, and if this happened, similar story happened to you, please bring it up, because we're going to stay with jails for a little bit.
I love jails.
Jails are, to me, like, there's nothing but pain and suffering in there.
Of course.
This ain't happy times, birthday for Frank party. This is terrible. I mean, there's innocent people in there. there's truly evil people in there, right?
All that negative energy that just stirs
All
up,
that
right?
negative energy concentrated in one place. And as we know, energy just doesn't go go away. It has to, it transfers to different things.
It transfers to things, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things was one of my paranormal investigators talked about. She was in, and just side note, and I'll tell you the same thing, Francesca. Be careful. I don't like women in a jail because they tend to get the worst of it. Because come on, it's men, women.
I get it.
You get it, right?
Yeah.
Come on. We're all adults.
Come on,
we're all
still going to
adults
them.
here. I know, and that's so brave of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway. So
I think just because it was my first, I think jails always hit a certain, but I agree with you 100%. It can get very dark, and even like the innocent people they're still suffering. Like they're still having those negative thoughts. Like, when am I going to get out? Like, I'm innocent, whatever. So it's nothing but negativity, and especially back in the days with all that inhumane treatment and all that, like considering what prisoners go through now is like nothing than back in the day. So it's like you definitely deal with some straight up, energy.
So anyway, the woman was looking, she was in the cell doing an investigation, and she saw a loose brick, and she took the brick away, and there was a comb in there, right? So she took the comb, and she's sensitive, and she's, doing, trying to pick up on it. And she said later, when they were doing re-editing or whatever, editing, the EVP sessions, they heard at that time, and excuse my language, but we can swear on this podcast.
Okay, perfect. I was just making sure. Some of them are censored, so I got to be sure. Yeah.
No, we're not censored.
We're not censored. Okay, rated R all the way.
She heard, plain as day, put it back, bitch. Plain as day. And she did put the comb back because she was like, I'm not taking it with me. Because, as you know, energy goes onto objects or wherever.
Of course.
She goes, I'm not bringing that comb home. It might have combed the hair of some serial killer, and that energy is on that comb, and God knows what. She said, I'm not bringing it to my house. I didn't. I put it back. But she heard that, Francesca, plain as day. And she played it for me later because it's, you don't get the greatest recording, but yes, you could put it together that it was saying that.
Of course, yeah. And it just depends on the recorder too as well. But yeah, sometimes when you get those like class A EVPs, that it's just so distinct that you can literally make out word for word like what it's saying. Like, you don't even have to kind of go back to it and be like, wait a minute. Like when you get those EVPs, it is just so rewarding. Like, there's some good ones that it's like literally I'm talking over the recorder. Like, there's no like of that little like, static in between it. So it's incredible when you capture that moment of a class A EVP.
Yeah, absolutely. So staying with jails here, what is your favorite investigation in a jail?
Oh, that's a good one. Alcatraz, 100% Alcatraz.
Oh, Alcatraz.
And Alcatraz, I can't say that I did a full-on investigation. And this was back in my amateur states when you start off, I guess you could say. Everybody's got to start off somewhere. But
absolutely.
So that was actually so the St. Augustine jail, that was like my first. And I think my second investigation, actually, if I'm not mistaken, was it Alcatraz? Oh no, it was Robert the Doll, and then it was Alcatraz. So my cousin at the time, luckily, lived in San Fran. So I was able to stay with her, and like, I'm like, hey, cuz I'm going to go visit you, but I want to go to Alcatraz, take me there. So I actually dragged her to go to Alcatraz with me. Now, during that time, this was probably like 10 years ago. So during that time, they didn't have your ghost tours. I think now they're doing them, or like paranormal investigations. So you literally had to do a day tour museum. And if you ever go to Alcatraz, I highly recommend you got to reserve that place ahead of time. If you're even going through the day or whatever they offer, you want to make sure you get them in advance, because that is the most sold out attraction in San Francisco. And that tells you a lot, because San Fran, it is. It's like, it's super hard to get it. Like, my sister tried to go at last minute. I warned her about this, and she couldn't even get tickets to check it out, because it's not even so much about the paranormal. It's just an incredible, historical place. So it's like, it has so much history. And I think that's the reason why it's one of my favorites, because even just approaching that island on that ferry boat, it's just nothing. I can't even describe the moment. It's just that intimidating factor to know what these prisoners went through, and just like knowing that's where your faith lies. Like, you're getting dragged on this boat to go to this island that you can't escape. And the waters are brutal. It's choppy over there in that San Fran area. So And so I would think definitely I had literally a class A EVP, and I had like my first little, before I had my DR60 or whatever. I know there's different recorders. If you want to stop me at that, I will. But I had like, I forgot what model it was, but it was like your basic little black Sony recorder. It wasn't, fast activated. So pretty much like, you have to kind of hear out the EVPs. It doesn't go at the, whatever the noise picks up. But that was like my first little recorder. And I remember like I captured 2 good EVPs on that recorder in solitary. So what I did is like, they had like the little state rangers there that kind of like, patrol the area. I call them the state rangers or whatever, though, whatever you call them. But I asked them like, hey, I'm coming all the way from Florida. I'm very into the paranormal. I know this place is haunted, but they're like, yeah, it's not haunted. But, they're just trying to cover up. They don't want to probably admit at the time that it was,
Right.
So I was like, can I please, like, I remember going like the last time of the tour, which I think was like 4:00 in the evening or something, because, they kind of guided me. The good things, shout out to those rangers, because they kind of guided me through. They gave me 30 minutes of solo time to kind of do my thing. Cause obviously it's a big tourist attraction. Like you have the people, like, so there's a lot of noise contamination, even if you try to investigate during the day. Right. So I'm like, I got this recorder. Like I was just so excited to use my, my devices and as being new paranormal investigator. So I think it was just that experience and just the history of it and capturing those 2 EVPs. I remember one scene, like I Can Get Her. And I forgot what the other one was. I have it in my show. And I think it's like the 3rd episode or 4th, but on my first season. But it was, I had those EVPs played out, and they're just so incredible that I was literally on my solo time, at least it was 30 minutes, whatever. I picked solitary and I went to like cell block D and just like kind of let it rip. I just asked questions, and I felt like my cousin was very chicken shit. So she like left me. She's acted like she was going to come with me, and then she just dipped off. And she's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going solo.
Right.
Like, I'll go with the tour. I'm not doing this, because it's an intimidating place. It's huge.
Oh yeah.
And just the history of it. So me going in there, like I was literally by myself. That was like dying to go further on and venture out. But then like the rangers stopped me. They're like, all right, it's time to go. Let's get on the boat now. Come on. You had your time. They were very strict about it, but I was grateful. I had 30 minutes of solo time that I was able to do that. And you can check that out on the first season of Supernatural Eye on my YouTube.
Absolutely. And my spooky friends will have all the links in this episode, so you can go and check it out and listen to it. So
thank you.
What was your scariest EVP? And do you remember what it said?
I would say probably, man, that is very tough. I think the thing is, like, I think the more you get involved with it, it doesn't get as scary as much. Even if they say, like, fuck you, bitch, or whatever. I always get, like, a fuck you, leave me alone, get out, So to some people, that's so intimidating. But to me, I'm already so used to it. Maybe it was that one from Alcatraz, I would think, because I felt like even so, I had, like, a little bit of an attachment after coming back. Not to always go, to get back to Alcatraz. But it's true. I think because it was... I'm trying to think nowadays, did I have anything that was like very scary? I mean, other than clever like captures that were just so good, to me, it wasn't so much that it was scary. And I'm just trying to think if there was something recent, but no, I would think definitely, I would have to go back with Alcatraz, because just the fact that it was talking about me and saying I can get her. And, I was still like learning to become an investigator. So at the time, like I never like, like you have to be tough when it comes to those things. You can't be vulnerable and let them see your weak side, out of things. That's what they want. But I think, the fact that they're like trying to like, and it did, I felt like something did attach to me that I had to kind of get rid of at the time, whether it was an inmate, I'm not sure. I felt like it was an inmate, but definitely that EVP response that I can get her. And just like, I think that was probably my most scariest capture. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Have you ever had a funny one? Like you made you kind of laugh?
There's so many. We have all these like jokester spirits. There's a couple of them. One of I think I would say Joseph at the Riddle House, just telling the guys to go fuck off on the recorder on the EV. I'm just trying to think. We just have so many. Like there was one too at the Hotel Redlands at the time with Scotty that she was asking questions. They're getting like, "Oh, I want a chocolate chip cookie." But I wouldn't say that's so funny. It was just kind of like they're just so intelligent. Like they can respond that way. Like it's like, "I want a chocolate chip cookie," like specific, but. It was just, I would say that's super humor. Like, what would say was my funniest one? I would definitely think it was like, Joseph from the Riddle House. Like, he doesn't like men, and he's always known to be like little sassy pants. So he gives them like some smart ass remarks. I would think when he gets really savage mode, like he tells them to fuck off. Like, I don't care for you. Whatever it is. We'll ask like, who's your least favorite person you like out of the group? He'll answer it. So I would say interactions with Joseph, because there's just so many, and he just says, fuck off, fuck you. Those are the funniest ones. I just think it's that. Just because he picks on the guys, I would have to say those are the funniest interaction moments for sure. Joseph, shout out to you.
Yeah, that's funny. I want a cookie. Well, so do I, and I don't have one. So.
Just so intelligent. It's like I remember, rest in peace, Scotty Burns. She was, one of our co-founders and passed away sadly a year ago. But we were at Hotel Redlands. And it was like she's just so. She's just such a badass. Like, honestly, as a female, like, I give her so much respect. Like, she literally had no fear, no shame. And she messed with the spirits too. Sometimes they picked on her. She was like, that shit ain't gonna bother me. I ain't gonna scare me. You gotta do a little better than that, buddy. And they're like, people are like, holy shit, you're not scared? She's like, no. Hell no, I'm always packing or whatever. That's always Scotty, right? Rest in peace. But yeah, she was the one with the cookie interaction. I remember at the time we were at Hotel Redlands, and she's like, "You want a cookie?" She's like, "What flavor you want? I'll bring it to you." And smartly, it was like chocolate chip, and we always had that joke about the chocolate chip cookie. It was like the spirit's little favorite cookie or whatever, and it was like cracking up and just wanting a chocolate chip cookie. In a spirit box interaction. So that was cool. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I asked this to all my female investigators, and just preface it that it pretty much happens to, again, not only females, but I have found out to males. Has a ghost ever got too handsy? Has got a little like, hey.
All the time, yeah.
What?
Yeah, not all the time, but the majority of the times. Yeah, like especially girls. I can see why girls get usually more that interaction than men, but sometimes men can get it too. Don't get me wrong, But
yes, again.
Yeah, I would say to Joseph, not to bring Joseph again from the Riddle House, but I've been felt sometimes by Joseph. Like I felt like he's kind of grabbed my cheeks, not to be a little TMI, or he like felt my legs and stuff. Also at the Gold Coast Railroad Museum, there's a very known pervert in that area, and we had another female investigator that she had some really crazy captures, and I'm like dying to investigate with her, Erin. And she before I joined the team, investigated with the guys, and she like also had similar experiences that I had at the Gold Coast Railroad Museum. So before, she went before like, I started joining the team, but her interactions was like being felt too, like on the legs, and then also like she had like a makeup smear on her face, like you could see it distinctly, like somebody just like grabbed. Yeah, like they have a picture of it too. I wasn't at that investigation because that was before my time. But then I went like shortly after she investigated, and like we had similar experiences that we talk about it because we were like social media friends. When you interact with paranormal investigators, like you don't get to meet them, but it's like your friends anyways. Like it's like you met them, So we're dying to investigate, but we talked about that. I'm like, oh my God, that happened to you? Like we had similar experiences. Not the whole makeup thing with me. My thing was like I had my hat flicked before because I always like to wear my witch hats or my fedora hats or my rim hats or whatever. I have like different version of hats, but hats to me are like my thing. So I remember like getting my hat flicked at the Gold Coast Railroad Museum, and then like also like my thighs being felt, like my sock, like just kind of like those like tingling sensations. So for sure, I've had some little perverts, interactions at the time.
Yeah.
Like, you better not touch me. Like don't touch me, Yeah.
Come
so
on.
like they get a little fresh too, like especially with the females. Like, and then there's some spirits that don't like females. They're like jackasses. Like they're
right.
Like, so that's happened to me, but that's in another location. But yeah, for sure. I've been felt on and touched and things like that. Yeah.
You're braver than me. I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Let's go.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. With your investigations, was there ever a time where the whole group felt something? And I bring this up because I actually have paranormal groups I've interviewed in Florida. And they probably were the same locations you guys were at, or similar locations. And they got this EVP they heard that said consumption. They could hear like a woman's voice saying consumption. And as soon as they heard that, all of them were having trouble breathing. And they were just like, I gotta go outside. I don't know what it is. And they all went out. As soon as they all went outside, they could breathe again and they felt better. But have you ever anything like that where there's something that was said over EVP, or you heard something, or I don't know what happened, where the whole group was like, yeah, I think we better stop this investigation?
Well, I could say if definitely I can answer that question, but for sure, like the room feeling heavy that I had to walk out. There's been a couple of places that's happened to me. One place we no longer investigate anymore, but it was the Hotel Redlands, and I felt like something was like entering me, or like I was like about to black out and faint. And I had to like, step into the bathroom, just kind of put water on my face. And I just felt like everything was closing in on me. And as I went to the bathroom, like, it was just so weird that I had to go pee. That's really what it was. And I didn't felt that way at the time. I wasn't like, I have to pee. Like, no, I just like, I felt like I was going to pass out. And then I was just like, sat on the toilet. And it just, for some reason, I just felt like when I peed, it sounds really weird to say, but it just like, it went away. I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know, like usually nobody like experiences that, you know, but whatever. So I would say that was kind of like, you know, but the most scariest place that we felt like we have to cut was, this place that's abandoned out in the Everglades, like miles out, called Aerojet Rocket Facility. And I don't like to throw the D word out and the demon word a lot because I think Hollywood and a lot of like investigators, I would call them enthusiasts because I don't say they're really investigators, like to throw like everything's a demon and it's not. But any place that I would say that could have possibly demonic attachments and influences would be Aerojet. And the reason why it's such a dark place, because it has everything with like satanic worshiping going on there, ties to Aleister Crowley and the founders of Aerojet that was used for NASA and the rocket fuels. And during that time in the 60s, you know, when they're trying to go to the moon and all that fun stuff. So definitely there's ties to that. And I think on top of that, there's still Satan worshipers like still going out in this lot. People have died there because in Miami, you just go to the Everglades and dispose of a body if you really wanted to kill somebody. You know, you got the gators and everything that, you know, that's your evidence. It's gone. So they did that over there because you're miles out and it's like you have to bike ride like probably like 3 to 4 miles. Like it's a lot. It's a big ride out. And if something happens to you out there, like you're screwed. Like, you know, like there's nobody out there to go help you. So we've been there a couple of times and with the teams, the things we have a big team. So not, you know, it wasn't like everybody at the team was there, but like there's a couple groups that times, like I've been there like probably 3 or 4 times. And the last time I went, it was very scary. It got very scary because even before the last time we went, we were trying to film for the Haunted Files. And that's a series we have on Paraflix, Mike Del Coro and my boyfriend, Eric. And we went out there and we filmed with Joe Torino. And when we were out there the first time, we couldn't film. It's like something was preventing us from going. Like he has the electric scooter. I always say you got to go old school. You got to take the bicycle, you know, everybody wants advanced, but I get it. But it's like, it was interfering with electronics, you know? So it was like his scope, he tried to, cause he's very techie, Mike, and he tried taking this damn thing apart, putting it together and like the thing wouldn't operate. Right. Whatever. We just thought it could be a defective scooter. He was going to buy one, return it, just thinking, because he's very logical, but it was weird. It was like things were influencing with us. And that night, it just like, we were spending the whole time trying to fix his you know, whatever, his GoPro, the little electric scooter, that we didn't end up going. It was just weird. It was like things like were happening that was preventing us to go. Okay. So we rescheduled. But then the last time we went, that we did film an episode there, and you could see that it's really freaking creepy. But I actually passed out, and it was crazy because and logically, I want to say maybe I wasn't hydrated enough because sometimes I forget to drink a lot of water. Like you're always on the go. So I would say if anything that can scientifically explain something, that would be probably that. I will give it to that. Maybe I just didn't have enough, you know, I wasn't hydrated enough. So, but yeah, like I just remember like we're right now, we find like, okay, we reschedule, we're going to go out. Right. And I remember like, I think one of their electric, what do you call it, scooters was malfunctioning too at first. Like, oh no, not again. It was like something. And then it worked. We're like, fuck, okay, let's go. Let's do this. Right. And then I don't remember, like we have to pass like a certain point, like these like little gates, like once you ride out, they have like certain gate points. I can't describe it. But anyways, as we were passing the first gate, I just remember like I started getting lightheaded, and it could be like I was carrying too much equipment. I'm just trying to like, you know, rule out the possibilities, right? Not to say it's paranormal. And I just like, again, it was like all closing in on me. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to faint. And I'm like, guys, I'm not feeling good. And some of them were like way ahead. But again, at that point, I was like, I was blacking out. Like I was like at that episode. And Joe was kind of behind me. Joe was like around me. And then Joe was like, are you okay? And I just remember like, I got to get off this bike. I remember getting off the bike, and I was just about to like, I saw a rock and I was going to sit on the rock. And then I saw like an upside down pentagram, because they do satanic worshiping still to this day. Like the Satanists go out there and do their stuff. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not sitting on that rock. I literally just remember like I was about to sit on it. I saw the pentagram say, I'm like, oh shit. So I don't know if something was like luring me to that rock. But I'm like, no way. And then like all of a sudden I was going to sit on the ground. I literally just sitting on the middle of the road, just like this. And then like, are you sure? I'm like, no, I'm not feeling, I'm going to faint. And then all of a sudden I had my episode. And I guess when I had my episode, people said like, it looked like an epileptic seizure. Like I was having a seizure. Like I was like shaking, but I don't remember it. Like I was just out, you know? And then they're all freaking out. I remember like just waking up, and like all the guys were around me, just like kind of like, what the fuck happened, you know? And then I just remember like I was like coming back into consciousness, and then I had a puke. So I puked where the pentagram was at. I'm like, oh shit. Like, I keep going to this
Oh
freaking rock.
no!
But whatever. So,
You
I mean, that
desecrated
was
it.
creepy enough. And it could be like, I remember like Mike was like, we need to go. Like, if this keeps happening to her, like, there's nobody that's going to rescue her. We have to get airlifted. Like, there's no way. Like, we're going to have to go. And I remember just like, I put brave face on, which wasn't the smartest thing to do. But I was just so like, no, I'm not going to be intimidated. This is spiritual interaction or demonic interaction. I'm not going to let them intimidate me. I'm not going to go back. We did not come all this freaking way. In my mind, I'm thinking this. To them, like, no, we need to go back. But I'm like, we're doing it. Like, no, I'm like, if you guys want to go ahead, I'll meet you. Let me rest. I'm going to go. You're like, no. I'm like, I'm going. And I went. And I did. I just kind of rested up. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's go. And they're like, are you sure? Like, that's not, I'm like, we can go back. Like, don't worry. Like, safety's first. And I'm like, and I know it's probably ballsy of me, but I'm like, no, we didn't come all this way. I'm not going to let them intimidate me if it's them. Because I had a feeling like that is weird. It is a little sus that this is all happening. And if anything, I could logically explain it. Maybe it was just lack of hydration, but it was really weird. The circumstances of the events from the first time we had to cancel to now this situation happening. But even though things were delayed, we still end up making the episode. It went fine. But it was just embarrassing to know I passed out and that happened and I puked because I don't like to be puking in front of people. Like, I'm like but it happened. So it was like, that would say that was probably the most like impactful one to me that I'm like, damn, like this could be for real. Like this could be something more serious than I'm dabbling with, but I didn't let it get to me. Cause one thing about Scotty that I take with me, and I'm so glad that she was my mentor. And again, rest in peace, Scotty, cause I spent a year, was don't be scared. Whatever, if the situation it gets scary, you cannot be scared. You have to show, you gotta be strong. You gotta take it, with the horns, you got to be smart. Don't antagonize, obviously. I'm not here trying to be like, fuck you demons. Cause I'm respectful at the end of the day, but you have to be strong. And that's what I did. I thought of her and I just kind of put game face and did the investigation.
That is an awesome story. I love that. And it's really interesting because, like you said, you don't know from location to location what's going to happen.
Right.
As you know, there's some locations you go to, you could be there for 8 hours and nothing. And then others, you may be there for 2 hours, an hour, even 5 minutes, and wow, we already got something. So let me ask you this: how does you and your team pick what you're going to investigate? What do you guys do? What's your process?
Well, I know it kind of goes through like like Eric and Joe as of right now, because they're like our team leaders of the team. So they kind of find the places. We already do events for certain locations. So sometimes they give us some free time by rewarding us. We don't ask for a dime. We always raise money for these locations. It goes directly to these locations. So we're pretty much nonprofit for War Party. And of course, we want the word to go around that. We want to help people at the end of the day. So it's not so much for the show and the glitz, but that's how we get rewarded, is we help these locations out, whether it's the Gold Coast Railroad Museum, Yesteryear Village, the Dairyland State, like all those locations, like we get rewarded by them just by doing private. So they'll be like, hey, thank you. Here's they give us schedules for private. So we're able to do some, with the team, things like that. We get rewarded that way. And then other locations, it's like, we find them, other paranormal investigators, like we just kind of network with them, whether if they, we paid them a certain price to investigate a location, or whether if we work together to do a certain show or an episode, an event, like a Paracon, like that's how we sometimes find locations as well. But mostly it's just the ones that we do events for that they get to reward us. So that's like sometimes you see us at these multiple locations with the team and everything else, but just depending. Yeah. But that's usually how we do it. It's just networking and collaborating at the end of the day, Sometimes if they're like abandoned locations, not that you're trying to trespass, but sometimes you got those connections too with the county and you get permission and things like that. So just depending on this, the location, in other words.
I love that. Has there ever been a location where you couldn't help a person, where you were just like, I'm not really sure what it was, but it's haunted, one of those.
Well, I'm dying to dive in more into for War Party. We haven't, ever since COVID, from my understanding, the residential cases, there's been a couple of them, but I wasn't able to go to them because they were very severe cases. So with War Party, I died to do a residential, but I know I'm next in line, hopefully soon, but we'll see. But I have helped out personal friends of mine that I felt like I got them some answers, but it wasn't like I could clear out a space kind of thing. Just to know hey, there is something there. Obviously, the friends, I'm not going to say who they are, but they're Venezuelan, so they had some ties to some Santeria in the family and things like that might have been conjured. For some weird reason, the cousin of my friend learned to coexist with this and is okay with it. Whether I have a feeling she may practice it or not, I don't know. But those are the location that it got kind of weird. So that was one place too that I felt like the energy was very heavy that I had to walk out because I was like fainted too. So it's like sometimes I get like sensitive that way, but that was one location that I was able to like, hey, there's something here, but as of now, like you might have to find professional help. And that was at the time before War Party. That was like more independently doing it, you know? So that was, if anything, I would say that was my first residential case. I wouldn't say it was most professionally done because it was just me kind of figuring it out on my own and trying to help a friend out. Cause I'm like, hey, I'm getting more involved into this paranormal aspect. Let me help you out. I got some gadgets. Now looking back at it with War Party, now in the professional aspect, obviously there's some things that I probably would have done at the time, but you learn these things, obviously. Like, so I haven't done it with the team per se quite yet, but I know there's some cases that the team, from what I've heard of, because obviously we're a research team, that they have done, and they, you know, some cases are it's a mental health issue or like a drug addiction issue, and it could be that's not so much paranormal. And in those cases, like you really can help them, and they need to seek professional help. Whether it's like going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It's like there's some things like some cases that are like or rehab, you know, whatever it is. Like there's some cases I won't disclose of, but from what I've heard, but it's like there's some really like messed up people with like, you know, children being malnourished, not taken care of, like, child protection services should have definitely been called on, and just things like that. That's not paranormal related, but it's more like drug use related. And that's where it gets tough from my understanding, where it's hard to help people out, but you have to find the best way to do it and know how to talk to people like that when it comes down to telling them, hey, you're it's not paranormal. It's more like you have to get yourself checked out, you know, but not in that way. You don't say it to them like that, but it's like you have to find the words to professionally kind of tell them like, hey, like it's maybe your surrounding environment, it's you that's causing the issues. It's not so much paranormal, you know, and you find the resources to help them out and try to get them the help they need.
Yeah, because that's really hard, right? That's the harder
That's the
thing
hardest
to do. When they're just sitting there going, no, there's a demon. No, there's shadows. No, and you're like, well, I think you need, you know, to see a therapist or something. That's really tough.
It's tough. And then when you see the cases, like the kids, like not the diaper not being changed, you know, from the story I heard, it was really bad. And as a paranormal investigator too, you put yourself in that danger, not so much with the spirits, but with living people. Like, they felt like, that's why, rest in peace again, Scotty, you gotta learn from Scotty, but she always packs. And it's true. It's like, she's like, that's why I'm packing, because it's like, they closed the gates on them. And then like the guy was having cameras, like you could tell like he was shooting up because he had blood on the wall. So you deal with some cases sometimes that it can get and that's where like you know, for me as a psychologist, and I'm a professional, I only have my bachelor's, but that's where like people like that need to get into the field and help people that have mental health issues or drug addiction or whatever the case is. So that's where it gets tough. I think that's where in a formal way, like that's where you really can't help them, because it's like another form of issue. And then if there is something more serious, let's say if it is like a demonic case or whatever, we do have people on our team that are specialized to kind of do cleansings. You know, we have techie people, we have people that are psychic mediums, that, you know, spiritual cleaning, whatever, shamanism, like whatever the case is. So we have certain people on our team that are very specialized in different things. So if anything comes down to that, we have the resources to help out. Worst case scenario, if it comes down to that type of level. But the level I'm talking about is more like mental health and drug addiction issues that we've run into, from my understanding.
Yeah. And, you know, things with sleep paralysis and stuff is always a tough one too, because people who suffer from it, because I've interviewed some authors on the subject, and what they keep telling me is there are no experts in it, because everyone's different and everyone has a different, I don't know, experience. And it just is wow. And to do that every night, to see that, because some
are more frequent than others. Like mine, thank God, wasn't as frequent. I had some experiences, but it's so scary when that happens to you, because you literally like you're there but you're not there and you can't move, and it's like it can get very scary. Then you're thinking like, shit, is this me or is this really happening to me? So that's where the argument of psychologists, I guess you could say, and then like people in like the spiritual aspects, like kind of have their discussions, I guess you could say, on their debates. But it's a very interesting topic. It truly is. I did like a sleep analysis like discussion in psychology one time. But anyways, I had some people in the field like think I was crazy and like kind of like turned down my paper, so I kind of had to go for their ways. But it was it's interesting. It's a very interesting topic, definitely debatable topic. It's very interesting.
I've only had it once, and thank God I've never had it again, because it was a very frightening experience.
And the people that like have it more like reoccurrences like that, I give them props because that really messes with you. It
Phew.
can. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could also be different things too, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's different things associated with it. And, going in as an investigator, if that person is bringing it up to you, you're like, okay, maybe that's it. But, who knows what you'll find. So that's really interesting to you. So, excuse me, one of the things I would like to do is talk about different ghosts and different things that maybe you have encountered on your investigations, and or you can maybe tell me, it's a load of crock. That's not true. But
Okay.
the first type, usually, like this is just general, Francesca, just general information. So it's not going to be too in depth. Is the interactive personality where you can, like you said, smell the perfume. Sometimes they're friendly, they're not friendly, they make noises, they touch it. We're kind of talking about that. And one of the things, though, I'm curious about with this. I had one paranormal investigation a group told me they went to the Velisca axe murder house.
Oh, so cool.
And
It's on my bucket list.
and they went. Yes, that's really cool. I've been there a couple of times myself,
cool.
not
Yeah.
investigations, but anyway, they told me it felt like the energy was still there, but it was tired. It was kind of like the spirits were like, I'm tired of this. Like,
Yeah, I'm
just leave
sure.
us alone. It wasn't in a negative way. It wasn't like people were getting scratched or yelled at or getting some crazy EVPs like get out kind of
Yeah.
things. They just felt like these entities who did interact they're just done with it, right? Like
Yeah.
us. You're at
Yeah.
a party or maybe you're hosting a party and you're like, okay, everybody just get out.
Yeah.
You ever been on an investigation like that where you've been like, wow, this doesn't seem right tonight. It seems like everybody just wants to leave us alone and I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what ghosts do, go to sleep.
that's so interesting that you pointed that out. But yeah, in our events, like I definitely, there's times that the interaction's not high, it's not active, and I think it comes down to that because especially in a place like that that's so known and people go there
Right.
constantly to check out because
Constantly.
especially like Alcatraz or those locations, like I could see the spirits being tired. Like you have investigators asking the same question: how'd you die? How long ago? What happened? Are you sad? Like they get tired. It's like, they're not trained monkeys. Like they're people that passed on. So in a formal way, as a paranormal investigator, I would say when you visit these type of well-known locations, you got to have to be a little bit more creative and not saying that that's going to be 100% the solution because sometimes you're just fed up. Like, hey, I'm tired. It's not my night. I mean, they're just people that passed on. So imagine like, even like if you put yourself in the spirit shoes, like if you're in that case and somebody's doing the same thing over again, it's like it's like work when people get tired, like the same mundane task. It's like, oh, I gotta do the same thing over again. Oh my God, I repeat my same speech, my greeting, whatever. It's the same thing. So it's like, they don't, so I can see that 100%. And yeah, that's happened. Our events, when we always like form a bond with the spirits. And even if they like, say sassy things to us and doesn't like us, we still treat them like friends. I'm like, listen, you may not like me, but you're still my friend. And they joke around with us. So they kind of get sassy, but I get it.
Yeah.
Like yesteryear village, there's some times that it's like that. Like, like the energy's not hot. They're just like, it's just that night. They have an amphitheater or concerts right across the way. So sometimes like that energy of that might bring up the vibration to them because it's music, but it just interferes with us because there's noise contamination. But sometimes that does help, having that concerts or whatever happening. But there's some nights that it's just draining for them and they don't want to interact, like they're tired, and I can feel it sometimes. So when I get with a group and they're like, man, this is supposed to be the Riddle House. This was on Ghost Adventures. It's supposed to be so active. Where's Joseph throwing something at me? Maybe Joseph just doesn't want to interact. So it happens. Like it happens that you feel the energy and you feel the vibe. Like, oh, this is gonna be a slow night. On a private, when we do the privates there, like I would say it can happen sometimes that the night's dull and they're just like, I'm here. But I think on a private, they feel more interactive with us because it's not everybody that we're trying to show off, hey, there's paranormal activity here. And we do it in the most respectful way. We're not always there. We try to change it up. We go with different experiments that we try testing it out and intriguing, like getting the crowd involved too. We have them sometimes interact with the equipment too and have them kind of do the show versus while we sit and observe. So we try to do different things for even like the spirits to get like different interactions. That's not the same like thing that we do or the same routine that, that we always try to do when we do these events. So we try to change it up too as well, just not to keep the spirits bored. But yeah, there's times that you could feel the vibe that they're just tired, like they're just, yeah.
Love it. I love that.
Yeah.
The next one, this one I'm a little dubious on, is the ectoplasm or ectomist. Basically, it kind of looks like a mist of fog, almost like it's swirling. Usually witnessed typically at a graveyard, typically outside battlefields, historical sites. Have you had anything like that? Caught anything like that? Like a mist, something when you've been on an
Yeah.
investigation? Okay.
I think we mentioned this earlier at St. Augustine at the gallows. That was like my
Yes.
first
Yeah,
really
right.
that was it. And still to this day, I'm trying to have somebody really debunk that for me. Because even if somebody were to debunk it for me, I will listen to them. I will. I'll be like, okay,
Sure.
this makes sense. But you got to
Yeah.
make sure it makes sense to me, you know? And it's
Right.
like, and you can't. It's not like I'm gonna be hard headed, be like, no, but I captured this. I know that feeling. It's like, man, you know. So I get that's why people get so stubborn with their captures.
Yeah.
Listen, you want to look dumb. Like you have to kind of like make sure like you know your shit, you know? But I would
Yes.
say definitely that was the gallows one still to this day is like it's capturing to me. But you just have to be careful when it comes to those type of captures or also like orbs. Like I cannot stand the orb captures because I can tell you 95% of the chance you can debunk those. Whether people's like, oh no, but there's different colors and all this. No, you can debunk those. And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to find a real orb capture, I will say. But when it comes to the mist stuff, that's the thing. The pareidolia is like something that people have to really look into, like how like cameras capture certain things. Because again, it's not probably paranormal. It's just something that's within the lens camera, like things that are like in the air, moist, like, I mean, moisture or whatever. We live in Florida. Like Florida is a big thing that with the moisture and like the lens captures and the lens flares and all that stuff. So that's where you have to be very careful when you analyze these photos. But yeah, I have captured those, and I'm not saying that you can't. You definitely can, but you just have to be very careful. You have to be analyzing the right conditions of the location, if it's outside, if it's inside. The one that the gallows was captured outside, so it could be questionable to others. Like, well, that could be like humidity, that could be a lighting source. No, I could see it. I could see it happening. But as of right now, just the way it's shaped, because it literally looks like a humanoid, like a human shape. So it's hard to debunk that. I'm sorry. Like maybe like a little mist coming through. I could see maybe that being like whatever. But it's like the way it's shaped as a human, like literally it goes from the head to like everything. Like I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, right.
I would say that. I would say that one. Yeah.
Nice. And this is one of my favorite ones because there's been a lot of proof that this exists and a lot of debunking, and that is the poltergeist. So have you ever had anything like that? By the way, I love that it means noisy ghost. You know, it comes from a German word. Yeah, it's a noisy.
It does, and that's what it is. Sometimes it's your energy that causes that noisy ghost, you know? It could definitely be that too. Sometimes yourself creates that, not really realizing that, you know, you just kind of manifest this energy. Like this, I would hate to say it, but it's almost like a form of negative energy that you manifest, and it kind of translates to things moving. So yeah, I mean, have I dealt with a poltergeist ghost before? Maybe at my household, maybe the whole time it is poltergeist. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not Charles. You know, I'm just joking. But it could be. But yeah, I believe in poltergeist ghosts, and yeah, I believe in that it's a noisy ghost. And sometimes I believe that it's formed by human energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really interesting to me because there's been debunking. The Enfield poltergeist is probably one of the most famous. Yeah. There's been a whole bunch of others that here in the United States that are pretty interesting too. So I don't know what to say about it. I'm just glad that I don't have it because wouldn't that be annoying? Like coming home and it's slamming the cupboards and it's throwing your dishes on the floor. You're like, dude, please stop.
Right. It's like, come on, man. I'm trying to sleep. And I think the more you feed into it, the more, like, if you fear it, I think the more it does it. So I think the more you block it off, be like, bro, just shut up. Just like that's the way you have to treat it. Like, sometimes it's not that scary. You just go like, listen, this is not the time and place, and you put your foot down, they'll stop. You know, not all times, but they will. You just have to stand your ground. You know. Right.
And it usually is, which I always think is really interesting, is usually teenage girls do capture this. And I tell a story about with my daughter, there were some weird experiences when she was going through some stuff as a teenage girl. Wow. Like you, she's kind of a weird, strange girl, and people didn't like it. And she's going through this, and we got her therapy. And as soon as we got her therapy, and she passed, and the darkness and stuff went away. And I had a couple experiences where I had a woman when I was downstairs watching TV. A woman like voice right in my ear, Francesca, like right here.
Disembodied voice, yeah.
John.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. And then also I was sleeping on the couch downstairs, just taking a nap, and I felt like someone tapping their fingernails on my back.
Cool. Yeah.
And it was like, and there was a part of me saying, do not turn around. Do not turn around.
Do it.
I'm like, okay.
Did you turn around?
No, I did not.
Come on.
I know, what a wimp. I told you I was a wimp. But it was but it had to do with, again, poltergeist have a lot to do, not to pick on teenage girls, but teenage girls bring a lot of negative energy.
I believe all those emotions, especially in that teenage phase, like you're literally dealing with hormones and things like that you could create that. That's what I'm saying. Human beings create poltergeist activity. So 100%, I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now the next one, orbs. Me and you are totally on board. No, I saw this one paranormal group.
Sorry, orb lovers. I know I get shit for that, but it's true. I gotta bring the science to it.
We both going to get shit on this one. And they were showing these orbs during an investigation. And all I said, Francesca, was, I think it's your camera bouncing off like some light. Yeah. And it was like I punched her in the mouth or something. Yeah. She was so pissed, this leader of this group. She was like, you're wrong. And that's not right. And I'm like, holy crap, lady. Like,
you started the orb war. I know. It's so hard, even when you try to say it in the most nicest way. It's like people get so defensive about it. And like, listen, you can have debates, whether if you feel like the person's still wrong about their discussion, like you could still find, like form of ways of communicating, not being so defensive and having these arguments and not becoming like, just be like, well, I don't see it that way, because think about it this way. Like, just like, people forgot how to do debate, and it's like discussions. Yeah. Or like discussions, like proper, like discussions. It's like, everything's like a fight now. Like, you're wrong, you're this. And it's like, and even so, like, the thing is, that's why you have to have your research and back it up when you have to like say these things. And sometimes you're wrong. Like, things can replicate, the science can replicate, things do. But it's like, there's so many things you can debunk off an orb. That's what I'm saying. Like 95% of the chance it is debunked. And I say 95 because that's a big that's a big percentage up there, like it's so rare if you're going to get a real orb capture. And people get so, still to this day, like people get so defensive. Like I'm not going to mention who, but we had team members that left the team because they were upset with certain ways that we have to break it down to people. Like, we're not going to represent this. This is why people take our team seriously and respect us, because we do put in the work. We do put in the research. But we had former people left the team because of certain things, and not even certain teammates, even people in general. When you find these things, they're like, hey, no, don't you think that could be like a lens flare or maybe like a dust particle or whatever the case is, like you can easily debunk it. And they get so defensive instead of hearing the person out and be like, oh, maybe you are right. Like, just don't take it because at the end of the day, nobody's an expert. But when you have that research to back it up and you can back it up, then I'm sorry. Like, for you orb lovers, what are you describing? Like, what are you trying to, like, what is like, because even like their arguments, where is it at? Like, so I don't know. So it's not to try to throw shade at my orb lovers, but it's like, please look into the research. That's all I'm going to say. Don't make yourself look dumb, because if it's not me trying to be nice to tell you this is not how it is, then it's going to be somebody else that's going to be a dickhead. And it's probably not a paranormal. It's probably going to be a psychologist. It's probably somebody that really does their research and be like, you're a joke. And that's why people need to understand, when people break it down to them as another paranormal investigator, it's not for harm. It's to help you out, at the end of the day. Yeah. But, people get defensive about it.
I know. Yeah. So, Dairyland Frights at gmail.com. Send me your hate mails. I will forward that to Francesca.
Right. No, please don't.
I will give her name and number, and no.
Get blown up. Just joking.
No.
Like, who's this girl tell me an orb doesn't exist?
Yeah, this girl. What did you do to my social media?
What do you mean? I get all these views because of these orb videos. Oh man, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's gotta be that one person. If it's not me, it'll be somebody worse than me. That's
it
all
will
I'm
be
say.
Somebody. Yeah,
it will be.
And God bless you if you believe in it. Like
I know. I feel
like
bad.
We both said, Francesca and I said, if that's your thing, that's okay. Nothing wrong with it. But let's have a decent discussion instead of like throwing shade on everyone. It's ridiculous. Okay, the last one, and I've never heard of this one. This is interesting. Is the funnel ghost. And it's mostly often spotted in old historical buildings, old homes, where there's like a funnel vortex associated with a cold spot and takes on the shape of a swirling funnel that most paranormal investigators say probably a loved one or something trying to be an apparition or something. They can't do it. I don't know. It usually appears as a wisp of light or a swirling spiral of light caught on photographs or video. Anything like that?
No, not personally, no. However, for things that are like a swirly or things that to me, what I look at into that is like a portal, maybe like some type of portal, because I do believe in portals. Obviously, yeah. I think that there's, portals around, ley lines, whatever you want to call them, sure. Those exist. So I think there's some form of portals here that could be, whether if it's UFO related or if it's, paranormal related, but there are portals. And for that though, to say if it's specifically like a family member stuff, I don't know how 100% I am with that. It could be true though. I had family members that manifest to me in a form a different way, not like a swirly type of, vortexy way. Yeah. And I don't want to say that's not accurate. It could be the way that spirit manifests to that certain individual, but my experiences with at least family members, including my grandmother, who I was close to that passed, was different. It's similar to that one, but it's a little bit different because the way I describe it in my dream, she came to me recently. That was the first time I felt like, man, other than Casadega, my grandma. And I hated myself for it, not to get off topic, but I hated myself for it because I felt like I scared it off because I was just so in shock, that was like, I'm here, I'm a paranormal investigator helping people out, but when it comes to me, I'm freaking out. Right. So, yeah. So I remember like my grandmother, it was kind of like I hate to say, but it was like like the Cinderella princess, like the fairy godmother, which she's like, with her in like the little sparkles and the dust. That's how my grandmother came to me in my dream. It was really weird. It's like, she kind of like came as like the fairy godmother, like, and she was laughing, and it was kind of like her form of self, but it's like, I'm back and I'm okay and I'm healthy. And I just remember like looking at her in my dream and screaming because I was like, oh my God, like you're here, and then I just woke up. And I think she laughed, kind of saying like, oh honey, like in her, not that she said it like that, but the way I took it when her laugh, like, oh, you're going to have to get used to this. And then it's just kind of like, I woke up, and it was just like, damn it, why did I do that? I wanted to spend more time with her, like I freaked myself out of the dream. But so it was a little different, but it was kind of like, it reminded me like a Disney, like the fairy godmother with the sparkles. Like that's what it reminded me more of, whether I'm not saying that's how maybe that was her way of like her, like, manifesting. That's the word I'm trying to find. Sure. Like, what's the freaking word? Like, that was probably her form of manifestation towards me in my dream, but maybe that's to others in that form. I don't.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you, Francesca. This has been amazing. I can talk to you forever.
I know. This has been fun. You were serious about this is like, we're having some drinks at a bar, just having discussion. So it's great.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So tell my spooky friends, what do you got coming up? What can they look forward to?
Sure. Oh my gosh. I would have to say I'm very grateful. This year has started with a bang for me. It's been a crappy year for events all over the world. Obviously, it hasn't been a good year as far as the start of shit that's going on with the fires in New Orleans. Yeah. So I'm sorry about that. But for me, the paranormal, I have to say I'm very grateful. It's been good. So we have the Haunted Files coming out here shortly with season 3. I just released my episode, actually, not to get off track. Supernatural episode 2, ironically, not that I knew anything about the LA fires, I'm not psychic like that, but I did make an episode about Yesteryear Village with Michael Angus. He is a firefighter, so check him out. And I did discuss funny, not that it's funny, not at all. It's ironic, actually, and it's just weird the timing of it because I didn't release this episode. And one of my favorite places at Yesteryear Village is the Firehouse Museum. So everybody's the Riddle House because of Ghost Adventures, but I do talk about the Riddle House, but I kind of focus more on the Firehouse on my episode and interviewed Michael Angus. So check that out. I'm not to get off topic with the fires, but it is just weird the timing. I released this episode literally this past Tuesday, and then all this shit started happening. So it is weird. I'm not saying it's connected, but it's just the timing. It's kind of weird. If and again, things are going on in LA. I'll have to say, like, please donate. I have friends out there. Patty Agree, as you know, we network with her in Paraflix, so a lot of people are suffering. Please donate. Off topic, help LA right now. I don't care about the politics. Put that to side. I don't give a shit what side you're on. Be empathetic. Right now, the world's at a dark state. Please help out. Not to get off track, but anyways, I just wanted to put that in there because this is weird times. But go ahead and check out the episode. It is out right now. I just haven't been promoting it because of the LA fires. I just feel like it's a dark time that I need to kind of chill out with my stuff. But anyways, go ahead, check that out if you guys like. Haunted Files, Paraflix is coming out. I know that's the big thing that people like to watch. So season 3, we're out. We're going to do the White Hill Mansion. That's coming out. I don't want to give too much details, but we have famous psychic medium April Broussette, as everybody knows her. She's going to be on the show. So that's going to be a really good one. I don't want to give too much details, but I'm going to say that episode was freaking wild. Crazy Delco session with April under the goggles. And let me tell you, I don't want to give too much, but it's one of those that like that investigation still to this day sticks with me. And I just cannot imagine how it's going to look out, in the, on TV. So check that out. Paraflix, get your subscription. I believe that's like, what is it? January. I'm so sorry. I'm horrible with dates. Let me tell you when that one is, but oh my God, I'm awful. Hold on. I should know this. It's not my show. It's the guy's show. I just, time to time I get to be on it. So it's cool, but I will be on that episode. Crap. When is it coming out? Let me tell you right now. It is the end of January 24th. Sorry, y'all. It's a lot. January 24th. Yeah, that's coming out. So check it out. Subscribe to Paraflix. The other thing is I am on Parahouse Magazine. So Orlando issue. Check out Melissa. Thank you. I'm not on the cover though. But I'm in the issue. So I'm really excited.
Congratulations.
So I'm in the January and February issue. So go ahead and check out parahousemagazine.com. Buy yourself a magazine. Check your girl out, So we got a couple, good people on there too as well. So that's out right now. And look out for the next Supernatural Eye episode too. So and all their paranormal events going on too for War Party Paranormal. It's a lot. Obviously, our team, we have a big group of team of 30 members. We have a North and a South team. So we do a lot of the public events. We're going to be at Paracons as well. We'll get to that. So warpartyparanormal.com. You can check out our public events down here in South Florida. Attend them. You get to meet our teammates. Also, go ahead and follow our teammates as well that do their own little like podcasts and stuff. We all have our own projects that we do to the side. So go ahead and check them out as well. And also we have Paracons that we're going to. So it's a lot. I mean, we got a lot going on this year. So, what we got? We got the White Hill Mansion, I believe, coming up. Is it like March or April? I gotta get my schedule going on. So if not, check these places out because they have it posted on their Facebook or whatever the case is. The Battleship of North, that's in April, sometime in April. I have to look at my calendar. I'm sorry, it's a lot, but that's in April. So that's North Carolina Battleship. So I'm excited for that one. I'm going to go back to the Roadhouse, the Rock Island Roadhouse here in Illinois. So that's sometime in October. Gettysburg Bash, the Gettysburg Battlefields Bash. So that's going to be in July. So I'm going to go to that as well. There's a lot. So just look at warpartyparanormal.com. You could check out these things at Supernatural Eye as well. My Instagram, which is supernatural_eye. YouTube, I do my own little shows there. So that's Supernatural Eye. And then, just follow the Haunted Files. That's Instagram, the Haunted Files. And then Paraflex, just go ahead and subscribe. So we got a couple things going on. Just kind of be on the tune with the social media.
You only have a couple things. You're not busy at all.
No. And, every year I'm grateful and I'm blessed, but it's getting busier and busier for me.
I love it.
I'm grateful, but it's like, it's a lot. Yeah, I might need my own personal assistant, which I'm not that rich to be hiring yet.
Nice. Yeah. So as you see there, my spooky friends, I'll put all the links on there. Yeah. Plenty of things to check out. Plenty of times that you can reach out to them. Please support them any way you can. And like I said, the California fires, couldn't say it any better. If you know somebody, even if you don't, support them because, you never know. Right. That kindness goes a long, long way. So again, thank you for going overtime with me. I could have gone.
Thank you for having me.
Into double overtime.
No, thank you. It was so much fun. That's the thing. When you have too much fun, you go overtime. So that's okay.
Absolutely. I know you're busy, but I'd love to have you back on the podcast.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, get me on. I'll definitely love to collaborate. Come to our events. Come out. I know you're chicken shit sometimes, but you need to come out.
I know. I'm scared. Can I wait outside the building and then you guys just tell me?
Absolutely not. No, I'm just joking. No, whenever you're comfortable, you want to come out. You're more welcome to come out to our events. I believe some of our members already. So definitely come out. Yes. We'll welcome you with open arms and we'll love to have you out.
Great. I love that. I would definitely take you up on that. That's something I would look forward to.
Yeah.
I always tell my paranormal groups I'd love to go on an investigation with them. I'll have to figure that out, but it's wonderful time. I just loved it. And like I said, it was awesome. So
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And to my spooky friends, stay spooky. Once this comes out, like I said, please support as much as you can. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Good weekend.
Thanks, Francesca.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.